My beloved child, before you close your eyes tonight and decide that you have had enough, stay here for 1 minute. Don't skip, because these next words are for the part of you that nobody else has seen, the part that kept going while quietly wondering how much longer it could keep carrying everything. You may have smiled today, answered people, completed your responsibilities, and acted as though you were fine, but deep inside, something has been asking for a pause. And perhaps tonight you reached the point where you thought, I cannot keep doing this. But listen carefully, what if you are not supposed to figure everything out tonight? What if this moment is not the ending you feared, but the moment you finally stop demanding that yourself carry tomorrow before tomorrow even arrives? Archangel Michael, in Christian tradition, is associated with courage, steadfastness, and protection. So for the next few moments, imagine this message as a reminder to breathe, become still, and remember that your hardest moment does not get to write the final sentence of your story. There is something you need to understand before you make any decision from exhaustion. Being tired does not mean you have failed. Feeling overwhelmed does not mean you are weak. And not knowing what to do next does not mean you have lost your direction. Sometimes the heart becomes so exhausted from searching for answers that it mistakes silence for abandonment. But what if the silence is simply an invitation to stop running through every possibility in your mind? Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you in the realization that you do not need to solve your entire life tonight. You only need to make it through this moment with gentleness, patience, and faith. If you cannot see the whole road, take one step. If you cannot carry the entire weight, put some of it down. If your thoughts are racing toward tomorrow, return to today. And if your heart keeps asking why everything has taken so long, remember this: a delayed answer is not automatically a denied future. Your story is still being written, and you do not have to know the next page before you turn it. Now breathe slowly and listen to this final thought, because this is where the message begins to change direction. Perhaps you came here expecting Archangel Michael to tell you to become tougher, push harder, and keep fighting. But maybe the deeper message is completely different. Maybe courage tonight means resting. Maybe strength means admitting that you need God's help. Maybe faith means saying, I cannot see what comes next, but I will not decide my entire future from one exhausted moment. Don't skip what comes next. Stay till the end, because the next part goes deeper into the one thing you may have forgotten while trying so hard to hold everything together. You are still here, you are still capable of taking another small step, and this night does not have to define what tomorrow becomes. There is something your heart needs to hear before this night becomes another night of carrying everything silently. You do not have to have all the answers right now. Maybe today gave you another reason to doubt yourself. Maybe something you hoped would change remained exactly the same. Maybe you looked at your circumstances and thought, how am I supposed to keep going like this? But pause here. Don't skip. The fact that you are tired does not mean your story has reached its final chapter. Archangel Michael is traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, and tonight that symbolism points to something deeply important. Courage can be quiet. It can look like taking one more breath. It can look like putting your phone down for a moment, stepping away from the noise, and telling yourself, I do not have to solve everything tonight. Something huge is waiting for you in that simple decision, because when you stop demanding an immediate solution, you create space for wisdom to speak louder than exhaustion. And here is the revelation you may not have expected. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is not the person who keeps pushing without stopping. It is the person who knows when to pause. You may have spent so long proving that you can handle everything that you forgot you are allowed to receive support, prayer, encouragement, and rest. You are allowed to tell God exactly how tired you feel without pretending. You are allowed to admit that you do not understand the timing. You are allowed to say, I need you to guide me because I cannot see the way forward yet. Stay till the end, because the next part will uncover why tonight may be more important than you realize. And if this message is reaching the exact place in your heart that has been quietly asking for hope, share it with someone who may need these words tonight. Subscribe if you want more faith-filled messages like this, because sometimes one message arrives at the exact moment someone needs a reason to take another peaceful step forward. So before you decide that everything is hopeless, separate tonight's exhaustion from tomorrow's possibilities. Those are not the same thing. Your feelings are real, but they do not have to become predictions about your future. One difficult day cannot tell you what the next season will look like. One unanswered prayer cannot explain everything God may still be doing. One disappointment cannot erase every possibility ahead. Let Archangel Michael symbolize the courage to stand still long enough to hear your heart again. Put down the pressure to understand everything. Take only the next step you can see. Something huge is waiting beyond the thought that says, I have to know how this ends tonight. You don't. Don't skip the next part, because we are going deeper into what happens when you stop trying to force an answer from an exhausted mind and finally give yourself permission to believe that tomorrow can hold something you cannot see yet. My beloved child, tonight may feel like the end of your patience, but what if it is actually the beginning of your release? You have been carrying questions that never seem to stop multiplying, waiting for clarity that refused to arrive, and trying to stay strong when your heart simply wanted somewhere safe to rest. But listen closely, you do not need to make permanent conclusions from temporary exhaustion. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, reminds you through his symbolism that standing firm does not always mean pushing forward at full speed. Sometimes it means becoming still. Sometimes it means taking one quiet breath and refusing to let one difficult night decide what you believe about your entire future. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in the next realization. The fact that you cannot see the way forward tonight does not mean there is no way forward. And here is what may surprise you most: the answer you are waiting for may not begin with something outside you changing. It may begin with you seeing your situation differently. Perhaps you have been asking, why is this happening to me, when the deeper question is, what can I learn while I move through this? Perhaps you have been staring at the closed door so intensely that you have not noticed another direction becoming visible. Stay till the end, because this is where the message becomes personal. You are not required to understand God's entire plan before taking your next step. You are not required to know when everything will improve. You are only asked to remain open to the possibility that your current view is incomplete. Tonight, let yourself breathe without solving. Pray without demanding an immediate answer. Rest without feeling guilty. Your strength is not measured by how much pressure you can carry before you finally break down. Real strength can also look like knowing when to place the pressure down. So if your heart has been whispering, I cannot keep doing this, answer it with something gentler. I don't have to do everything tonight. You only need this moment. Then the next one. Then the next small step. Let tomorrow arrive before you judge it. Let God work beyond what your eyes can currently see. And let the image of Archangel Michael remind you of steady courage. The courage to remain grounded when your emotions are loud, the courage to wait when you cannot see the whole picture, and the courage to believe that one difficult night does not get the authority to define your entire story. Don't skip what comes next, because we are about to uncover the one thought you may have been holding onto that is making this night feel heavier than it needs to be, and once you recognize it, you may finally understand why this 1 minute with Archangel Michael mattered. My beloved child, before you let tonight convince you that nothing can change, pause and look at one truth you may have forgotten. You are seeing your life through the exhaustion of this moment, and exhaustion can make tomorrow look smaller than it really is. You have been carrying the same question, replaying the same disappointment, and wondering why the answer has not appeared yet. But tonight, Archangel Michael's symbolism of courage asks you to do something different. Not to force an answer, but to create enough quiet to recognize the next step. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this realization. You do not need a complete plan to keep moving forward. Sometimes you only need enough strength for one more honest step. One prayer. One peaceful breath. One decision to postpone the conclusion that everything is over. There may be a part of you that believes asking for help means you were not strong enough. Let that belief go. Strength is not measured by how silently you carry everything. Sometimes strength is saying, "I need support." Sometimes it is allowing someone trustworthy to stand beside you. Sometimes it is praying instead of pretending. Stay till the end, because this message is about more than getting through tonight. It is about discovering what happens when you stop treating yourself like a machine that must keep operating no matter how exhausted it becomes. And if these words are speaking to you, share this message with someone who might need a little encouragement tonight. Subscribe for more faith-filled messages that remind you to pause, breathe, and keep your heart open when life feels uncertain. You never know when a simple message can reach someone at exactly the right moment. Now hear this carefully, you are not required to know whether tomorrow will bring the exact answer you want. You are only required to leave room for tomorrow to surprise you. That is where hope begins. Hope does not demand proof before it takes its first breath. It simply refuses to close the door on possibilities you cannot see yet. Archangel Michael can symbolize that steady courage, the ability to stand firm without forcing the future into your preferred shape. So tonight, release the need to solve every question. Release the pressure to understand every delay. Release the demand that everything makes sense immediately. Don't skip the next part, because the deepest revelation is still ahead. There is one burden you have been carrying that may not belong to tonight at all, and once you learn how to put it down, you may finally feel what it means to rest without giving up on your future. My beloved child, there is a difference between wanting your life to change and believing you must force it to change tonight. You may have reached this moment carrying 1,000 thoughts, wondering what you should do next, what you should say, what you should fix, or how much longer you can keep waiting. But stop for a moment. Let those questions become quiet. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, can remind you that strength is not always movement. Sometimes strength is remaining grounded when your emotions are demanding an immediate answer. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this realization. You are allowed to pause without abandoning your dreams. You are allowed to rest without giving up on your future. You are allowed to admit that you do not know what happens next and still believe that the next chapter can contain something beautiful you cannot see from where you stand tonight. Think about how much energy you have spent trying to predict what tomorrow will bring. You may have replayed conversations, imagined different outcomes, questioned your decisions, and wondered whether one different choice could have changed everything. But tonight, give yourself permission to stop rewriting yesterday. You cannot go backward and edit what already happened, but you can choose what you carry forward. And perhaps that is the hidden invitation in this moment. Release the weight of needing to understand everything immediately. Stay till the end, because this is where the message becomes more personal. Your future does not require you to have perfect clarity tonight. It requires you to remain open. Open to learning. Open to guidance. Open to a new perspective. Open to the possibility that something you currently see as a delay may eventually become part of a much wiser direction. When you stop forcing yourself to know everything, you create room for discernment to appear. So tonight, if your mind keeps telling you that you have to figure everything out before you can rest, answer it gently, not tonight. Tonight can simply be for breathing. Tonight can be for prayer. Tonight can be for putting down the questions that have no answer yet. Let Archangel Michael symbolize the courage to remain steady while the future unfolds one piece at a time. You do not have to chase tomorrow into your room tonight. Let tomorrow come when it comes. Something huge may be waiting beyond this exhausted moment, not because anyone can promise exactly what tomorrow will bring, but because your perspective can change, your strength can return, and a path can become visible when your mind is finally quiet enough to see it. Don't skip the next part, because we are getting closer to the deepest message of this entire night. The thing you thought you needed to receive may not be what restores your heart. The thing you may need first is permission to breathe again. Tonight, before you ask yourself one more time whether you can keep going, pause and listen to what your exhaustion has been trying to tell you. Maybe you do not need another answer right now. Maybe you need rest from the constant search for one. You have spent so much energy trying to understand the timing, predict the outcome, and prepare yourself for every possibility that your mind has forgotten what peace feels like. But Archangel Michael, as a symbol of courage and steadfast faith, points towards something different. You can stand firmly without forcing everything to happen immediately. Don't skip, because something huge is hidden inside this simple truth. You are not required to carry tomorrow tonight. You are not required to solve next week before you sleep. And you are certainly not required to decide that your future is hopeless simply because today felt unbearably heavy. There is another revelation waiting here. Sometimes the greatest shift begins when you stop asking, "What if nothing changes?" and start asking, "What if I cannot see the change yet?" Those questions sound similar, but they lead your heart in completely different directions. The first closes the door. The second leaves it open. Stay till the end, because you need to hear this. Uncertainty is not proof that your story is finished. A quiet season is not proof that nothing is happening. A delay is not automatically a denial. You can acknowledge what hurts without turning it into a prediction about your entire life. You can say, "This is difficult," without saying, "This will always be difficult." You can say, "I do not understand," without saying, "There is no answer." That is the kind of courage this moment is asking from you. Not dramatic strength. Not pretending everything is perfect. Just enough faith to leave tomorrow unwritten. So take this 1 minute and make it different from all the others. Relax your shoulders. Breathe slowly. Let the thoughts come and go without chasing every one of them. If you pray, speak honestly. Tell God what you are carrying. Tell Him what you cannot understand. Then allow yourself to stop searching for the answer tonight. Archangel Michael can symbolize the steady courage to remain grounded when the path is unclear. And perhaps that is exactly what you need before you sleep, not a guarantee about tomorrow, but the permission to believe that tomorrow is still capable of surprising you. Don't skip what comes next, because the next revelation reaches even deeper. There may be something you have been calling an ending simply because you have not yet seen what it was preparing you to become. My beloved child, there is one thought you must not allow this night to steal from you. Because I cannot see the way forward, there must be no way forward. That conclusion is too heavy to place on one tired moment. You have only seen the page you are currently standing on, not the pages that come after it. And perhaps that is why this 1 minute matters. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, can represent the strength to remain present when the complete picture is still hidden. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this realization. You do not need to see the entire staircase to take the next step. You only need enough courage to move one step at a time. Tonight, your assignment is not to predict the future. It is to stop letting exhaustion pretend that it already knows the future. Look at everything you have survived emotionally, every disappointment that once felt impossible to move beyond, every season where you wondered whether you would ever feel like yourself again. Yet somehow, you arrived here. That matters. You may not have received every answer you wanted, but you gained something you could not have received without walking through those seasons: perspective. You learned what deserves your energy. You learned which voices should not define you. You learned that some things cannot be forced. Stay till the end, because this is where the message becomes even more personal. Perhaps you are not being asked to become a completely different person tonight. Perhaps you are simply being asked to stop fighting yourself. Stop criticizing yourself for being tired. Stop calling yourself weak because you needed a pause. Stop believing that every unanswered question is evidence that you made the wrong choices. You are human. You are learning. And you are allowed to take your next step without having everything figured out. Now imagine waking tomorrow with one simple decision already made: I will not demand that one day explain my entire future. Imagine giving yourself permission to begin again without carrying every disappointment from today into tomorrow. That is where hope becomes practical. You can make a wiser choice. You can have an honest conversation. You can ask for support. You can pray differently. You can change direction if necessary. You can begin again without pretending that yesterday never happened. Let Archangel Michael symbolize that steady courage within you, the courage to remain grounded, to protect your peace, and to keep moving toward what is good without forcing the entire road to reveal itself at once. Don't skip the next part, because the most unexpected realization is still ahead. Perhaps the reason you needed this 1 minute tonight was not to receive an immediate answer, but to remember that your next chapter deserves to be entered with a rested heart instead of an exhausted one. My beloved child, perhaps the most important thing you can do tonight is stop turning your pain into a prediction. One difficult day does not know what tomorrow will bring. One disappointment does not have the authority to define your entire future. And one unanswered prayer does not mean your story has been forgotten. You may have been staring at what is missing for so long that you stopped noticing what is still possible. This is where the symbolism of Archangel Michael becomes powerful. Courage is not always about pushing through, sometimes it is about protecting your hope from the conclusions your exhaustion keeps trying to make. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this realization. You are allowed to say, I don't understand this yet, without saying, nothing good can come from this. That tiny difference can completely change the way you enter tomorrow. Think about the person you were before this difficult season began. Maybe you trusted more easily. Maybe you expected things to work out without constantly calculating every possibility. Then life became complicated, and slowly you started believing that you had to stay alert every second just to keep everything together. But tonight, you can begin releasing that pressure. You do not have to monitor every outcome while you sleep. You do not have to replay every conversation. You do not have to solve every problem inside your head before morning arrives. Stay till the end, because there is another layer to this message. Sometimes the answer you desperately want is not the first thing you need. Sometimes you need clarity before action, peace before a decision, rest before a new beginning. And when you finally allow yourself that space, you may discover that the decision that seemed impossible yesterday becomes surprisingly clear tomorrow. So take this moment as a quiet reset. If you have been blaming yourself, soften that voice. If you have been comparing your journey to someone else's, release that comparison. If you have been thinking that you are behind, remember that every life unfolds differently. Archangel Michael can represent the courage to stand firm without becoming consumed by pressure. Let that image remind you tonight, you can be uncertain and still hopeful. You can be tired and still worthy of rest. You can be waiting and still moving forward. Something huge is waiting beyond this moment. Not necessarily a dramatic event, but a new perspective that could change the way you wake up tomorrow. Don't skip the next part, because we are approaching the heart of this message, where you will discover why sometimes the most powerful response to a difficult night is not to force yourself to keep going, but to finally allow yourself to breathe, rest, and trust that the next morning has not been written yet. My beloved child, before this night moves any further, listen to the truth your tired heart may have forgotten: you do not have to earn the right to hope again. You do not need perfect circumstances before you are allowed to believe that something better can still unfold. Maybe you have been waiting so long that hope started feeling exhausting. Maybe every time you became optimistic, another disappointment followed, so you slowly learned to expect less just to protect your peace. But tonight, pause. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, can symbolize the strength to stand without allowing disappointment to become your identity. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this realization: you can protect your heart without closing it completely. You can become wiser without becoming hopeless. And you can acknowledge what happened without allowing it to decide what happens next. There is a moment when you realize that you have been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, "Why hasn't everything changed yet?" perhaps you need to ask, "What is still possible from here?" That question creates space. It allows you to notice options you could not see while your mind was trapped inside one expected outcome. Stay till the end, because this matters. Your next chapter does not have to look like the chapter you imagined. It can still be meaningful. It can still contain peace. It can still contain love, purpose, growth, and unexpected opportunities. Maybe the path changes. Maybe your priorities change. Maybe you become more selective about what you give your energy to. None of that means you lost. Sometimes the most powerful transformation is realizing that you no longer need the old version of your dream to feel excited about the future. And now, beloved child, take one more quiet breath and let this thought settle. Tonight is not asking you to solve your entire life. It is asking you not to abandon tomorrow because today was difficult. Let Archangel Michael represent the courage to remain steady through uncertainty. Let your faith remind you that you can move slowly and still move forward. If you need rest, rest. If you need prayer, pray. If you need to speak with someone you trust, reach out. If you need to make a decision, give yourself enough peace to make it wisely. Don't skip what comes next, because the final revelation is waiting beyond this moment. The reason you were given 1 minute tonight may not be because everything needed to change immediately. It may be because you needed to remember that your life is bigger than the one problem currently occupying your mind, and tomorrow deserves a chance to show you what tonight cannot. My beloved child, before this night ends, there is one truth I want you to carry beyond these words. Do not let exhaustion make decisions that belong to a calmer version of you. You may not have everything figured out. You may still have questions. You may still wish something were different. But you are not required to solve your entire future before you rest tonight. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage and steadfastness, can symbolize the strength to remain grounded when the path is unclear. So breathe. Slow down. Release the pressure to know exactly what happens next. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this final realization. Perhaps the miracle of this moment is not that every problem disappears, but that you finally stop believing every problem must be solved tonight. One quiet decision can change the atmosphere of an entire night. I will rest now. Tomorrow, I will take the next step. Think about what that means. You are not giving up by resting. You are not abandoning your dreams because you need a pause. You are not losing faith because you admit that you are tired. You are simply refusing to judge your entire future from the smallest and darkest corner of your present perspective. Stay till the end, because this is the message behind the title. Before you give up tonight, give yourself 1 minute to remember that your current feelings are not the complete story. You may wake tomorrow with a different perspective. You may discover an option you could not see tonight. You may have a conversation that brings clarity. You may recognize that something you thought was essential was actually holding you back. You may simply wake with enough energy to think clearly again. No one can promise exactly what tomorrow will bring, but you can leave room for it to be different. That is hope, not pretending everything is perfect, but refusing to close the door before the next chapter arrives. So now, let this night become a place of release. Give God the questions you cannot answer. Give Him the timing you cannot control. Give Him the situations that have consumed too much of your attention. And keep what is yours, your next choice, your integrity, your faith, your willingness to begin again. Let Archangel Michael symbolize courage that stands quietly and firmly, not frantic effort, not endless pressure, but steady trust. And if tomorrow asks you to take another step, take it. If it asks you to rest, rest. If it asks you to change direction, listen carefully. You do not need to know the entire journey tonight. You only need to leave the door open for tomorrow. Don't skip the final thought. Before you give up, give yourself 1 more minute. 1 more breath. 1 more prayer. 1 more chance to believe that the story is not finished simply because this chapter has been difficult. Tonight may be heavy, but it does not have to be the final word. My beloved child, before you let the quiet of this night convince you that nothing is changing, remember what you could not see when this message began. You were never asked to understand everything at once. You were asked to remain open to 1 more moment, 1 more breath, 1 more possibility. And now you are here. Archangel Michael, traditionally associated with courage, steadfastness, and protection, can symbolize the strength to stand peacefully when life refuses to give you immediate answers. Don't skip, because something huge is waiting in this final realization. Sometimes the most important turning point is not the moment circumstances suddenly change, it is the moment your heart stops surrendering its hope to circumstances. You may still have unanswered questions tomorrow. You may still have responsibilities waiting for you. But you can meet them with a different spirit. You can say, I will handle what belongs to today, and I will leave tomorrow in God's hands. Think back to everything you were carrying when you first pressed play. Maybe you thought you needed a sign. Maybe you wanted certainty. Maybe you simply needed someone to remind you that one difficult night does not define an entire life. And perhaps that is what this minute was really about. Not predicting what happens next. Not promising that every circumstance will immediately change. But reminding you that your tired mind does not get to write the final chapter. Stay till the end, because this is the truth I want you to remember when this video is over. You can pause without quitting. You can rest without losing your direction. You can ask for support without feeling weak. You can change your plan without believing you have failed. You can cry, breathe, pray, and begin again. There is still room for wisdom. There is still room for growth. There is still room for an unexpected path to appear where you once saw only uncertainty. So tonight, release the demand for a perfect answer. Let tomorrow arrive naturally. If you can pray, pray. If you can rest, rest. If your heart needs support, reach toward someone trustworthy. N.W.